Tigers are India's national pride. We are home to more than 66% of the global tiger population. In many ways, the Global Tiger Conservation Campaign hinges on how well India does, which is why the latest data from the National Tiger Conservation Authority is very worrying. It says that 24 tigers died between January 1st and February 8th. It's the highest death toll in the last 3 years. The Conservation Authority has also launched an investigation into why the numbers are so high. Our next report is getting you the details. Majestic yet fearsome, poised yet lethal. The tiger is amongst the few animals that invoke fear and joy in equal measure. It's an apex predator that owns the jungle. But in the last century, the tiger has seen its numbers fall. In 1900, more than 1 lakh tigers roamed the earth. Today, just about 4,500. Poaching, leisure hunting, and habitat encroachment are to blame. But in the last decade, countries of the world had a late realization. If they don't act fast, the tiger would be relegated to the history books. India has taken that lead in that conservation effort. We are home to more than 3,000 tigers, which is around 66% of the global population. But 2023 has brought with it some bad news. Between January 1st and February 8th, India lost 24 tigers. That's the worst start to a year since 2020. Data from the National Tiger Conservation Authority raises multiple questions. How did these animals die? Why do they die usually in January? And why is the death toll higher than previous years? The cause of death appears to be natural. Tigers, being fiercely territorial, can engage in violent fights. Aging is another common reason. 16 tigers had died in the same period last year, while 20 had died the year before. Nonetheless, the Tiger Conservation Authority is not taking chances. They have launched a probe to understand if any of the deaths are linked to poaching. Now, the second question. Why is the toll higher than previous years? The Conservation Authority does not have an answer yet. But interestingly, January and February have historically logged higher numbers of tiger deaths. In the last 10 years, between 2012 and 2022, 128 tigers died in the month of January. March was second with 123 deaths, and May was third with 113. So what's so special about January? The consensus is coincidence. This year, the highest deaths of tigers have been reported in Madhya Pradesh, followed by Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and Karnataka. With 6 tiger reserves, Madhya Pradesh is the biggest home of tigers in India. But with a large population comes an even larger threat of poaching. In the last decade, India lost 193 tigers to poaching, a number that is unacceptably high. The key to wildlife conservation anywhere is constant vigil and monitoring. It's our duty to ensure that these majestic beasts grace our jungles forever. Let's try and understand why we are seeing 24 tigers dying in the country in 1 month alone. Ajay Suri is a wildlife expert. He's also a wildlife filmmaker. He's joining us on the broadcast. And Vishal Singh is the India director of Tough Tigers. Vishal Singh, let me come to you first. A, is this number unusual? We know it is slightly higher, but is it unusual? And in your view, is it worrying? If yes, why?
Still worrying, but the numbers are not so high. But some years you could have more mortality. But the main thing we feel is, you need more tourism-friendly people who benefit from income from tourism all around the parks. The tourism income is only in islands in a park where a park is around 1,000, 2,000 square kilometers, where only 20% of that area is open for tourism. So the people who are benefiting actually from wildlife tourism or wildlife being there in the park is very little. So if that could be evenly spread around the whole park, it would be a much better idea. And it would be a new thinking, because earlier they were made tourism only in a small area. But if they spread it around, you'll have a lot of people who are tiger friendly, who are benefiting from the presence of tigers. So that is very important. And we should have a sustainable development around parks for tourism.
So you are saying that if more people around tigers are invested in their well-being, you will see fewer deaths. Ajay Suri, now the reason for these deaths are varied, but I remember being in Panna a couple of months ago, and there were people talking about poaching there. That it is, we don't hear about it, but it's fairly common.
It used to be very common. I've been to Panna a number of times, and on the eastern banks of Hain River, where you have a lot of towns. At one time, Panna has the dubious distinction of having lost all its tigers along with Sariska about 20 years ago, and then
Correct.
tigers were relocated to both these places, and now now tigers are actually flourishing in Panna. But to come to your original question, Shreya, I believe that this has to do something with the problem of plenty which we are facing. The tigers have increased manifold now. From 1411, a few years, now they are like 3,000 plus. But the big problem is not many people, understand that tiger is a territorial animal. Means it requires a territory to safeguard, in which it lives, in which it hunts, and a particular forest has a holding capacity of tigers. For instance, say a grassland 50 square kilometer, in length and breadth, it can hold say 25 tigers. And suppose more tigers come in that area. So the territorial fight would take place, and the weaker tiger would be pushed out of the forest zone. And now here lies the problem. NTCA is on record saying that although the number of tigers in India have increased, the tiger habitat outside of the reserve forest has actually dwindled. It is decreasing. So this, I believe, is the real cause for worry, because once a defeated tiger goes out, number one, it will not have, because that forest will be degraded. It won't be an ideal habitat. It will have lesser prey base, and then secondly, its chances of colliding with humans would be much more. The way it's happening in Pilibhit area, they've actually named those tigers as sugarcane tigers. The tigers who take refuge in the sugarcane fields, and they have been responsible for so many human deaths. And one very important factor, there are 2 or 3 reasons why tigers get killed, by humans. One is, historically speaking, there used to be trophy hunting. All that is over now, but tiger, every part of tiger commands huge price in international market, right from its whiskers to its hide to its, every part. Now that poaching is more or less, I believe, is controlled. But there's a third poaching also, which I would say is vendetta poaching. When a tiger moves out of its, confined zone, that it kills a cow or a buffalo of a farmer, then the farmers poison the carcass of the killed animal. And this is how, if you see this NTCA report, I think 3 or 4 tigers have died because of electrocution. So this is a problem in which, in many farmlands, electric wires surround a farmland, and tigers also get killed, and then there are leg traps also. So many factors are, contributing to tigers' death. And I don't think we can point at just one factor responsible for these 26 deaths. But yes, this is worrisome.
Sure.
But this is not really shocking, I would say.
Not shocking, worrisome, but not shocking, which is why a probe, I believe, has now been launched. Vishal Singh, as I was looking through the data, what struck me was that the most number of tigers die in January, any given year. Any guesses on why that happens, or any science behind why that happens?
January is, there's a lot of, the crops are in the fields, and so there is more chances of conflict with man for tigers, because they are going to protect their fields and things. And this is the time sometimes, the farmers also put snares to catch, wild boar or deer who comes into their field and things. So the tigers sometimes get injured. So it's the time of conflict because it's the crops are there in the fields, and so January, February, March, you would see more conflict. Plus, that's also in Madhya Pradesh time when the maua flowers.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people out collecting forest produce flowers and things. So sometimes they get in conflict with the tiger.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. Vishal and Ajay, thank you very much for joining us for this very quick chat to understand whether the numbers we are seeing on our screens, 24 tigers dead in India in 1 month, whether it's alarming or worrisome, and why is it that in any given year, it's January which sees the most number of tigers dying. So I think those two questions have been answered. We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you, gentlemen, both for joining us on the broadcast on Mirana. Thank you very much. Moving on.